و تربیت کا ادارہ کشمیر انسٹیٹیوٹ آف اسپیشل ایجوکیشن قائز آپ کے تعاون کا طلبگار انصاری ویلفیئر ٹرسٹ یو کے باکلے بینک سوٹ کوڈ 201188 اکاؤنٹ نمبر 50877735 ویب سائٹ awtuk.org وسیم در ڈابا تازہ سموسہ چاٹ فروٹ چاٹ دہی بلے گول گپے سبز چاہ پہلی باری عالم روک روڈ تو تازہ گنیاں دا جوس جی ہاں تازہ گنیاں دا جوس وسیم در ڈابا آؤٹ سائڈ لاہور پیزا 32 عالم روک روڈ ٹیلیفون نمبر 07846428925 وسیم در ڈابا
radioafteryours.co.uk, bringing communities together through interfaith and social cohesion specialist shows.
کیا آپ پریشان زدہ والدین ہیں یا سمجھتے ہیں کہ کورونا جو عالمی وبا بھی ہے نے آپ کے بچے کی پڑھائی پر اثر کیا ہے تو پریشان مت ہو کیونکہ رائزنگ اسٹار اکیڈمی اپنے نام کی طرح پہچان بھی رکھتا ہے وہ والدین جن کی آمدنی کم ہے کی اچھی طریقے سے مدد بھی کر سکتا ہے رائزنگ اسٹار اکیڈمی میں اپنے بہترین سہولتوں کے ساتھ منظم کلاسوں میں پڑھائی کی کمی پوری کرنے والی لیسنز دیے جاتے ہیں صرف اسکول کے دوران ہی نہیں بلکہ چھٹیوں میں بھی مختلف ایکٹیویٹیز کی جاتی ہیں جن میں گھڑ سواری تیر اندازی بولنگ اور بھی بہت کچھ سکھایا جاتا ہے لیسنز امانہ سینٹر میں تجربہ کار اساتذہ کی نگرانی اس کے علاوہ 11+ سیٹس اور GCSE پر بھی خاص توجہ دی جاتی ہے تاکہ آپ کے بچے کا مستقبل سنور سکے صرف یہی نہیں بلکہ ہفتے کے دوران پرائمری اسکول کے بچوں کو بھی بوسٹر کلاسز دی جاتی ہیں تاکہ ان کی پڑھائی میں بھی کوئی فرق نہ آئے اس سہولت سے فائدہ اٹھانے کے لیے ہماری ویب سائٹ risingstaracademy.org.uk پر جائیں یا فون نمبر 0121227195 پر ہم سے رابطہ کریں شکریہ
گھریلو ناچاکی اولاد کا نہ ہونا اولاد نافرمان محبت میں ناکامی اولاد کے رشتوں کی پریشانی کاروبار میں بندش کالے جادو کا اثر تو آپ پریشان نہ ہوں آج ہی استخارے کے لیے رابطہ کریں حافظ مبارک شاہ صاحب سے واٹس اپ نمبر ہے 07424605048 that's 07424605048 اپنی ذمہ داری سے رابطہ کریں ریڈیو آپ کی آواز پر کوئی ذمہ داری نہیں ہے
Adderley Nursery School, close to the city centre, St Saviour's Road, Birmingham, B81HN. A place to create and learn, connect and belong. We are a local authority maintained nursery school led by a head teacher and a team of experienced, specialist early years teachers and practitioners. We offer free 15 hours for all 3 and 4-year-olds and some 2-year-olds. We also offer free 30 hours childcare for working parents, support for children with special educational needs and disabilities, and we are open from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m, term time only, and we offer breakfast and tea. We are based on St Saviour's Road. Please call and register your child on 0121 464 4183. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
برمنگھم سینٹرل ماسک ہائی گیٹ برمنگھم کی سب سے پہلی مسجد اور یوکے کی دوسری مسجد کی بنیاد 1960 اور 1970 میں رکھی گئی تھی برمنگھم سینٹرل ماسک کو مزید امپرومنٹ کے لیے آپ کی مدد کی ضرورت ہے آئیے دل کھول کر مدد کریں اور ساتھ دیں الرائن بینک برمنگھم ماسک ٹرسٹ لمیٹڈ سورٹ کوڈ 300083 اکاؤنٹ نمبر 01264201 ٹیلیفون نمبر 0121440535 سماعت فرما رہے ہیں آپ کی آواز ریڈیو یو کے کی نشریات کو اسٹوڈیو سے رابطے کے لیے نمبر نوٹ کیجیے 0121682935 ایڈورٹائز اسپانسر کے لیے 07944808141
Assalamualaikum everybody and good evening. Welcome to a special edition of the Community Talk Show. Tonight's edition of our special program will focus on a topic of interest to the community, and this is the reason why we brought our program on a Monday evening. Inshallah, the Thursday evening program will still carry on, but this is a special program that we've introduced just for tonight. Before I go to my special guest, I would like to remind you, everybody, that you are listening to Mohammed Amin on the Community Talk Show on Radio Aapki Awaaz. You can listen to me on www.aapkiawaaz.co.uk. You can tune in on the Radio Garden app, or you can tune in to Facebook, and after the event you can also view this recording on YouTube as well. As always, the number to advertise and sponsor our program is 079 44 808 141. And I would be grateful if viewers, listeners, please put your comments in the chat box, and I would periodically refer back to it and make sure that we include you in our discussion. And as always, the Community Talk Show is for the community, for the benefit of the community, and without the community's response and support, I will be sitting here. So this is where we all play a part in this exercise. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my special guest. My special guest tonight is Liaqat Lone Sahab. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Welcome to my program of the Community Talk Show. MashaAllah, today we can talk in English, Pahari. My Urdu isn't very strong, but MashaAllah, we'll do a mixture. The purpose of this special program is to enlighten, educate, and empower the community with information. One of the things is there's so much misinformation about in the community, and what we've tried to do at Radio Aapki Awaaz is give the community factual information, and we would like the community to make their own decision on certain issues and topics. And it's always the best to start off with a good foundation, and that's what we try to do, is give the community the information about various aspects. The Kashmir issue has been, again, in the media, has been a Kashmir issue for some 72 years. Constantly, these are the times of the month when the snow melts from the Himalayan region of Jammu and Kashmir. People get a bit active, and then during the winter months, when you have something like 12 foot of snow in certain areas, people are destitute and they are locked away for between 3, 6 and 9 months, and they just literally can't do anything. So these are the times of the year when things heat up. Just give me a brief overview of, a snapshot overview of the Kashmir issue, please.
First of all, Mohammed Amin and Radio Aapki Awaaz, I would like to say big thanks to you and your team to raise the voice of voiceless 20 million Kashmiris living in Jammu Kashmir and around the globe. I think much have been said about the Kashmir issue. Well, I'll try to just summarize it. The Jammu Kashmir state has more than 5,000 years written history, and this fortunate for the Kashmiri nation, I'm proud to say that we have been on the global map long before India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and some other countries in Southeast Asia. It doesn't mean that Kashmiris are something superior, no. What I mean to say is that when the issue started, when Pakistan and India were declared as independent states on 14th and 15th of August 1947. To the knowledge of the youngsters, especially in diaspora, and your viewers, before 1947, even like 200-300 years before 1947, Kashmir was still existing an independent state on the globe. Okay, so the issue started when the British left India and Pakistan came into being on 14th of August and 15th of August, India, and then The Kashmiris, very peaceful nation, loving people. They try to be the friends of Pakistan and India. But the trouble starts, unfortunately, from both sides. There was an invasion from Azad Kashmir side, and then Maharaja Hari Singh, he tried to contact the Pakistan government, and there is on the history there is a standstill agreement which they refused to sign, and then obviously any one of us, if we would have been in that situation, we could have tried to save the nation and the state. So what he did in the first go, he tried to be neutral in between two countries. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and then when the invasion was when the tribals intervened into the Azad Kashmir, and they were around somewhere in Baramulla, and the king or the head of the state, Maharaja Hari Singh.
Maharaja Hari Singh, the ruler of the state.
Yeah, so the ruler, he when he saw this, because of the innocent killing started, and there was a war already started in the region, so he tried to escape from Srinagar to Jammu, and that's where he tried to contact to the Indian government. On that time, because the British ruler was still, the officials were still there, and they asked him to, because all the princely states in subcontinent like India, they have the right. They did have the right to be an independent country, or they can choose one of like India to join India or Pakistan. So if you see from August till October, when this trouble started in October 1947, the Kashmir was totally neutral state between both of the country. And then at that time, when the Maharaja contacted to Indian officials, they said to him, look, we cannot give you any help and support unless you sign an agreement with us. This was the same standstill agreement he offered to Pakistan, and obviously Maharaja knew that 70-80% of his population was Muslim, so he would never create a trouble with the the population with the dominant figure. So and that caused more the stress in between different cultures and religions, and all this trouble started from Jammu, definitely. I believe. And then they signed the agreement, and then this was somewhere in October 1947 when the first the army invasion was in Srinagar from Indian side. That was a black day in the history of Kashmir. I would never say that something good happened in that way, but this was the summarized, how this trouble start. And then in January 1948, there was a resolution passed to United Nations where there was, the promised, the referendum to be taken in the supervision of United Nations, and this was in January 1948. And then again in 1949, India and Pakistan passed another resolution. The first resolution was where they have given the choice to the people of Jammu and Kashmir to choose their destiny to be an independent or be part of India or Pakistan. Again in 1949, the India and Pakistan, they passed another resolution where they took this option of from the Kashmiri nation, choosing as an independent option. So this is another, I would say, this was another mishap with the Kashmir issue and the Kashmiri nation. This, and after that they have a war between themselves, like in 1965, 1971, and all these 72 years, the Jammu Kashmir community, no matter what their color, creed, or religion was, they have been suffering. And I feel sorry for them. No matter they are Hindu or Muslim, they are Kashmiris, and every single life matter in Kashmir. So now the situation around the globe, most of the people think that there is a war between Hindu and Muslim in Kashmir, which is not. The Kashmiris are not fighting on their religious basis.
Religious basis.
Thousands of years, the Hindu and Muslim lived together
side by side.
like brothers and sisters, and they still live together. And if you see, the culture of Jammu Kashmir is very diverse. I can give you the example: if a Hindu die, the Muslim do all the arrangements of the funeral. If a Muslim die, the Hindus do the arrangements of the funeral. Same is in the weddings.
No.
Every social aspect of the life is full of colors and sympathy, humanity, which has been ruined from the both intervention. Now you see the innocent killing of the children going to school. They are victim of pellet guns. You see all this, militancy and all these kind of acts. They have ruined the Kashmiri nation, and this is the time where, in last 72 years, who suffered most is the Jammu Kashmir residents, the people, and the community of Jammu Kashmir. Now, this is not 1947 now. India and Pakistan, they have both nuclear power
Nuclear
now.
power.
China, big nuclear power. Then you see the other neighboring countries. And this is getting worse and worse every day. And if you remember, there was when these countries come, the army forces come close to each other on even if it's Kargil war or it's any other war they had in between themselves. It alerted the international community, and still nothing has been done practically. And I urge from your radio today to all the international community, they must intervene, and they must bring India and Pakistan on the table of dialogue. And without the consulting the 20 million Kashmiris, there won't be a solution. That's why, in my point of view, if there is no Kashmiri on that discussion, the result is zero, as this has been since last 72 years. So now, from both sides, unfortunately, there is a kind of, oppression on the freedom of expression, freedom of speech. I would not say that Azad Kashmir situation is same like in Srinagar, but still we have issues of freedom of expression, freedom of speech. You have seen in recent elections like how they condemn the nationalistic ideas of those people who doesn't want to be part of any country, and they don't have the right to vote unless they sign that declaration that they will be part of Pakistan. This is the worst example on one side. On the other side, we face bullets, pellet guns, and the worst lockdowns, curfews, and human rights violations, sexual abuses, and innocent killings, where a child would like to go to school, he doesn't have a choice, he is the victim of pellet guns. My children, your children, and the viewers, whoever is listening or watching us on live today, we all allowed to live with peace, love, and harmony. This is what all the Kashmiri nation in Jammu Kashmir state, they would like to live with peace, love, and harmony. I would urge all the Kashmiris, especially who are in diaspora, to make their maximum efforts to make their voice heard. Make the efforts that we do not portray this issue between India and Pakistan a bilateral issue. No, this is a humanitarian issue where we must consult the Kashmiris, the sufferers, the victims, and the freedom lovers, and the peace and harmony lovers in the Jammu Kashmir state. I hope I answer your question.
Thank you very much. You have given me a comprehensive answer. I really appreciate that.
Dr. Shaheen.
Dr. Shaheen, good evening. My name's Mohammed Amin. Thank you very much for giving your time this evening.
Thank you for having me.
We're just here in the studio. We've got a conversation going with Liaqat Lone and we're just talking about the background of the Kashmir issue, and he's kindly brought me up to date where we are today. And you have a special affiliation with the region. Can you please tell me a little bit about yourself and your affiliation with the Kashmir issue?
Yeah, I am a Kashmiri. I was born and brought up in Kashmir, and I work as a professional here. So I identify myself as a proud Kashmiri.
MashaAllah.
And that basically, is my background. And obviously, we have a lot of love for our homeland and a desire to have, equal rights as everyone else in the world. And also the promises done by the UN with regards to the UN resolution of giving the people of Kashmir a choice to hold a plebiscite, to give them, the choice of choosing what they want to do in terms of how do they want to live, and that's an aspiration for most Kashmiris to be given that choice, which obviously, is a promise unfulfilled for the last 73 years or so.
Dr. Shaheen, I appreciate you answering my question. Now, 1946, 1947, you've got to remember, Britain came out of India. India and Pakistan became independent states. The British rules, obviously, India for well over 200 years, and Kashmir was an independent state well before India and Pakistan as such came into existence. There's many countries, I can give you examples in Europe, obviously, for example, Bangladesh, 71, whatever it was. Many countries in Europe, you look at former Yugoslavia, Bosnia, I can rattle off as many countries in Europe. The demographic profile, the geographic profile has changed. Why has this issue not been resolved in Kashmir? What is the common denominator in your opinion?
It's a very interesting question, and I think it is the lack of interest from the world governing bodies, including the UN and the three countries, that occupy us, which is India, Pakistan, and China. Parts of us in varying degrees that never, come together, keeping the interest and the desire and the wishes of the people of Kashmir at heart. So if you have your own interests, whatever they may be, it will never address the issue. And the problem is it's never Kashmiris on the negotiating table. So, whoever represents us may not necessarily be the true representation of the people. But most importantly, I think there is no willingness by the main, powers of the UN Security Council or the countries that we, deem as powerful, like the United Kingdom, USA, Russia, China. There doesn't seem to be the same interest, because we may not be generating things that keep these economies going, for example, oil or, resources that they may not be aware of. But more importantly, the borders of our Kashmir are with, three nuclear powers, which they are not understanding that it's almost, sitting on a nuclear bomb if this dispute continues. Because at the end of the day, we are a disputed territory, which is well recognized, as I said, in the UN Charter. And the reality is that these promises are unfulfilled, and there seems to be no willingness or desire to basically address the crux of the problem, which is that we need to be given that right. If that's not addressed, no matter how many talks happen and how many agreements are passed or how many negotiations are done, which have happened, from time to time, the Shimla Agreement, the accords and all the rest, it basically is futile because it doesn't address the underlying issue. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Dr. Shaheen. You see, I lead a very simple life. If there's a problem with myself, Pakistan, there's a problem with Liaqat here, who's India, we normally get an intermediary and say, come on, there's an issue with the two countries, sort the issue out. That makes life so easy. And we always used to say about Britain, what role do you think Britain and America can play in this issue? Because as you said, there's a time bomb ticking away. You only need one of the nuclear powers to press the button and then you know what's going to happen in the Asian subcontinent. So how important do you think that the superpowers, the likes of Britain and America, have a part to play in this issue?
They have a huge part to play because, if we again go to the bottom of this problem, this is a mess that's created by the legacy of the British monarchy that was in India. So you yourself said we were an independent state, so we weren't actually directly under the British rule.
No,
but when
that's right.
When India was divided and Pakistan was formed, the Muslim majority states went to Pakistan, not all, but most, by virtue of the Muslim majority. But those that had a princely state, which ours was as well, their king, if you like, or the prince, was given a choice as well to decide on behalf of the people. And for us, the unique thing is that we were told all of this will be settled post India and Pakistan, India getting independence and Pakistan being formed. So part of us, obviously, is the Azad Jammu Kashmir, who do, as compared to the Indian occupied Kashmir, live a more peaceful life in the sense that, the atrocities are not the same as, what happens on the other side.
That's right. They have a better quality of life in Azad Jammu Kashmir when you compare it to Jammu, Srinagar, Ladakh, the type of, especially Srinagar, with what's going on with lockdown. Now in the UK, as you know, with COVID-19, we've had a difficult 18 months, and we've all, it was classed as Freedom Day. July the 19th was a Freedom Day, and everybody was said, yeah, great, no masks, and even though in certain parts of the country, COVID-19, this Delta variant is spreading quite rapidly, but even still in parts of the UK, restrictions were lifted, and after 18 months, we started to breathe a sigh of relief, a bit of normality. What you got to understand is in the region of Jammu and Kashmir, especially in Srinagar, they've had that lockdown situation for well in excess of three years now. But also, but you see, some of that lockdown that they've had, it's not that, they've got internet access or Facebook's been blocked or a lot of connection from the outside world has dropped. And what can we do to bring that message across to the Western world and say, look, this is a humanitarian issue?
I was going to tell you we've slightly distracted from your actual question, which is what role do the America or UK, or for that matter, European Union and others have to play. They basically, need to have the guts to challenge the atrocities, the subjugation, the snatching away of rights in terms of, freedom of expression. Apart from, the human rights violation, you also need to understand that, with the abrogation of Article 370, which is the anniversary on the 5th of August, it's coming up to 2 years.
That's right.
Basically, that special status, which was unique to Jammu and Kashmir, basically, was dismantled. And again, it's an unconstitutional move. But so far, no one has challenged that, and that's the sad part of it, that no one has challenged it. So we need to make these people that are in power or powerful positions understand as to what exactly is happening. And when fundamental rights are being, people are being deprived of it, there is an intervention that needs to take place at an international level. Because at a local level, no matter how much the people aspire or want to change or want to protest, it doesn't get translated into any tangible action that the state can be held accountable for.
Well, I think this issue has gone well over the state now. As you said, the Article 370 has exceeded the state requirements now. But thank you very much. I really appreciate your time this evening, and really appreciate your comments. And thank you very much for taking part in the session this evening. And move on to Liaqat again. Liaqat, just remind me the issue of Article 370. That my understanding was that it exempted the state of Jammu and Kashmir from Indian Constitution. What's the main reason of Article 370?
Okay, first of all, the oppressor does whatever they want to do. Now, Article 370 was a privilege to Kashmiris to give them a special status, to have their own constitution, their own laws, and their political, the freedom. Although the Kashmiris misuse that political freedom in terms of, the lust of wealth or the governing or the ruling of innocent people. But the matter of fact is that this article was constitutionally abrogated without the will of the Kashmiris. That is a kind of a mistrust in between the communities. Article 370 itself doesn't mean anything to Kashmiris. It's just a piece of paper.
It was a piece of paper. Status.
But the problem is the Kashmiri nations have been given that privilege when the Maharaja did signed an agreement.
My understanding was when Maharaja signed that agreement, this was a special status given to the people of Kashmir, because when Maharaja signed that document over, it was the issue of Kashmir will never form part of India, and that's why it never formed part of the Indian constitution. So it was a separate and it was a clearly defined structure. So, for example, any Indian national, they couldn't buy any land in Kashmir. It was only Kashmir residents who could buy land in Kashmir. That's quite a strong structure in place.
Two things like Article 370 and Article 35A. That was the only thing in Indian Constitution which gives the Kashmiris a privilege or a special status as compared to the other states. Now, the plan was to abrogate these articles and do whatever you want to do in Jammu Kashmir state. I would not go into that detail until you come back with your next question, because I think you have a couple of people online who would like to talk. So I would like to give them the chance to speak, and then I will give you the answer.
Thank you. Claire, good evening. My name's Mohammed Amin. You're talking to me on the live community talk show on Radio Aapki Awaaz. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me along.
Claire, Before I ask you about your involvement in the Kashmir issue, I did some homework on you, and I thought a lady from London, residing in Glasgow, so she's a Glaswegian, and I thought, hang on a minute, why has she why is she actively involved in the Kashmir issue? So over to you, Claire. So why are you so passionate about the Kashmir issue?
Oh my goodness! I wish somebody could tell me the answer to that. It's just been a whole heart-led journey. I'd gone out to India just before the lockdown. I bought Kashmiri rugs and kept in touch with a Kashmiri salesman. And I'd been home a couple of weeks, and it was just a simple text, "How's your family?" And back came the response, "I don't know."
No.
And then he just briefly told me, and I was like absolutely shocked. It was just, and I think I empathised on the level, if that, I mean, we experienced it a bit with COVID, didn't we? But it's the level and he was worried. And then what alarmed me more was because I was full of a sense of injustice. You can't do that. And then I'm looking to our media, and there was nothing. So I had to go online and look at it, and I was just filled with this, this sense of injustice, and then started to get into dialogue with different people. And, it was really interesting. And my comments, I felt just straightforward common sense, and they started getting a lot of, I don't know, kind of respect, and people just saying, yeah, that's right. And I'm just thinking, this is wrong. So my journey just began. I mean, my background, my granddad was a socialist MP for 26 years, so somewhere there in my background, I think. Anyway.
So there was definitely something in your blood.
I think so, probably. And then that was just, I just had this feeling I wanted to take the world to go and get the troops out. It was this feeling of we can't let people do that. And then obviously the boundaries we've got. So it kind of evolved into speaking to people on Facebook. We eventually set up a Facebook group, and then we developed this campaign that was going to be, a uniting one around the world. We wanted to have an event in Kashmir to go in to Kashmir. It would have had to been, Azad side, and then have a mixture of political ideologies and people there, human rights people, and kind of have a live event that would then stream out. And we're trying to get someone from every country in the world. So, I mean, it's just, like I said, it's just been a heart-led, this sense of injustice. And, when you can empathise with the brutalities and the tortures, that could be any one of us. That could be, our neighbour getting raped. It could be our neighbour that's got there. And they've had this fear for 3 generations, if not more. And then, obviously, it's inspiring this kind of resilience that the Kashmiris have, and then the bringing through all the history and everything around it, and just meeting with all these different people. And it was just like this is a problem to solve, and it's kind of, this was 2 years ago now, nearly. And I remember thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to try and make a difference.
I was just going to say to you, I have been following you for the last 2 years, and I thought this is a lovely lady, an educational lady who's come onto the scene. Maybe she uses some of her educational background experience so we can get the message across to people in a simplified manner, and let's hope the world starts listening to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And it's just, I heard you saying earlier in the programme about if we had a problem, you would get a mediator in, and it seems, I remember some politicians saying at times India are incredibly difficult to deal with. And I was thinking, well, that's just like a bully. It's like everybody letting the bully get away with it because they're incredibly difficult to deal with.
You see, one of the things I learned from industry was conflict handling, conflict management. I lead a very simple life. If A has got a problem with B, get C involved and say, come on, you give some, and let's sort this issue out. There's no point, fighting with the arms race. And obviously, that South Asia region, India, Pakistan, China, somebody somewhere presses a button, then you've had it. And it's a global issue. So this is not a bilateral issue of the two countries. It is a global issue. And us independents enjoy the life of luxury in the UK. And as you gather, for the last 16, 18 months, unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we've been under restricted arrangements. And then July 19th came along. And then, look, for us, it was Freedom Day. Great, let's get out. But the Freedom Day for the Kashmiris is nowhere in sight.
No, and it scuppered our journey as well because, we had the great ideas last year. The students, we're missing the students because they're not amalgamated together at the universities and we couldn't get out on the streets ourselves and be seen. And it's things like that. I mean, I think strengths we develop, we did use social media really wisely. And, there is an amazing network, that we've connected together that is a kind of a strength there. But we're needing now, we need to connect with the people face to face and be seen. And I think once the students get back, but it's scuppered the whole thing as, and we've seen it's almost worse than it was 2 years ago. And India are going at one hell of a rate. So I'm just hopeful that the strengths and the ties that we've built together, and even, our latest campaign for the 5th anniversary, the Red for Kashmir, it's amazing the quality of people, more people that we've met and across, different countries. We're covering the whole world now. So there's a real, there's a sense of, we keep doing this. And for me, it won't just mediate because, it's operating at a bigger scale. And I know for me, I just have this desire. I want to get the United Nations, like functioning. I mean, again, it sounds like a simple thing, but if the United Nations functioned along with all those articles and charters and somebody put that into place, obviously, in order to get that, we've got to get the Western world to stop squashing the others and sending weapons to them. And
that's right.
So for me, it's people power. It's the only thing that's going to change it because the status quo is just being kept. It's hidden in our media. I've been on the streets of Glasgow the last 3 weeks trying to campaign for the Red for Kashmir and release of political prisoners, and the amount of people that they've never, we've got a generation of young people now that haven't even heard of Kashmir rugs or shawls. At least I'd heard of that, and they don't even know where Kashmir is, and it's really worrying. And we know we'll come out on the streets and it probably won't get a look at by the media, but it's just a case of building it. And
well, Claire,
let the people know.
You are doing a fantastic job in getting the message out to the community. I'll just have a look at some of the comments people have made, and then I'll ask you a bit more questions about your Red for Kashmir on the 5th of August campaign. Would like to thank viewers and listeners who are viewing and listening to this program. Mohammed Ishfaq, thank you for joining us. Mohammed Clark, thank you very much for joining me. Mohammed Yassin, thank you very much for listening and watching. Ahmad Yassin, thank you. Mujahid Iqbal, thank you. Mujahid Iqbal says salam to you as well.
Thank you.
Claire, this campaign, Red for Kashmir, 5th of August, Black Day. Enlighten me on that, please.
Well, it initially came about, as working as a human rights activist, we're kind of aware around about March or April, they were disappearing offline. They just seemed, the Kashmiris from IOK or from, Kashmiri in general were seeming a bit despondent. And then it was actually Mary Scully in America. And it was her that presented the idea to me. And it was based on the fact that just after August the 5th, 2019, all the Kashmiri diaspora and those that could turn their profiles red. And so we wanted it to be a campaign that was led by the Kashmiris. We wanted people to take this opportunity to use this colour theme. The colour was purely chosen on what had been used before, and that it's bright. It's clear, it's the one you're most going to identify with. It signifies, for us, the bleeding, the blood, but also, the red of, we've all got red blood, but it was also for love and the heart, and we just built on that. And so as soon as Mary mentioned it, I was like, that is just so simple, so effective, and it was just going to be online. Simply, let's get our profiles red, let's upload red posts. There's been a Black for Rohingya one that's been going on for 13 years, and they've got about 26,000 people that support that now. And really, once we started discussing with people, it started just growing arms and legs, and everybody's really embraced it and taken it in their own, so within their own groups, their own organisations. And we've just set out this idea for turning your profiles red on the 5th of August and to upload something, a theme that's red, but constantly using hashtag red for Kashmir on all of your platforms kind of from now on, and people could turn their profiles red now. The idea is we want the public to be turning on and seeing red themes, red, and sort of starting to ask, why are there all these red profiles? We were looking for at the human rights level as well, above the political divide. We were hoping it would just bring us all together for these human rights issues. That's all it was about, and that unity. And the more of us then that were rooting for the Kashmiris, the bigger and louder it could be. And of course, it's now evolved into candlelight vigils, protests on the streets. So there's going to be one outside the Indian High Commission on the 5th of August at 1 o'clock. There's one in Glasgow on George Square at 6 o'clock. I think there's candlelit vigils in Crawley and Luton. So
will you be attending that event in London?
No, I won't be down in London. I will be in Glasgow. And
the other thing is, Claire, is what are you doing to bring this Kashmir issue awareness to the youngsters of today, the youth of today?
Well, I think the closest to that is still on the social media, sadly. I mean, I've been on the streets of Glasgow for the last 3 weeks, and I've spoken to a lot of young people there. We do have young people within our movement that have been trying to, so they're within the team.
Glasgow does have a very strong Kashmiri community.
Well, the Glaswegians are just amazing. They're just so friendly. They just shock the stories. And so potentially, as we go back to the universities, that's where we're going to try and get in and link with Amnesty, the Palestinian activists, and try and get that, the Scottish human rights as the theme. And so we can support the Palestinians, they can support the Kashmiris. So that's where our drive will hopefully be now, once the students are back in the universities and we can move. And then that's our energy and that's our focus going forward, very much.
Claire, thank you very much for your time this evening. I really appreciate you giving the time and just enlightening me. And no doubt we'll have another session on another occasion. And I'll just go back to our guest here in the studio, Liaqat Lone Saab, and we'll just wrap up the session for this evening. As I said, we can go on for a couple of hours, but I really appreciate the achievement that you've made in the last couple of years, and no doubt we'll follow you with interest, and maybe we can touch base soon. Thank you, really appreciate your time, and thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you, good night. Liaqat Saab, Claire's giving me a quick overview. She enlightened me what she's been doing in the last 2 years, and she's made a very, very strong inroads in the issue of Kashmir. More importantly, getting the message out to people about Kashmir, what it's about, what the issue is, and as you kindly explained to me earlier on, where do you think we go from here? So Black Days, 5th of August. There's going to be demonstrations in London. Where do we go from here?
Okay, first of all, can I just say big thanks to Claire Bidwell, showing her great support towards Kashmir issue, and on behalf of 20 million Kashmiris, innocent children, ladies and gents, a big thanks from all of us to Claire Bidwell, running up and down the country with all the campaigns she does for the Kashmiris, knocking the doors of the mosques, parliaments, gurdwaras, every single corner of the community hub. And I don't have the words to say this brave lady, thank you. And I would appreciate her efforts of especially doing her campaign for a political prisoner release, including Yasin Malik and other political prisoner. And I can assure her that we support her on this campaign. And as your question is concerned with regards to 5th of August protest in front of Indian High Commission in London, we are demonstrating against the brutal action and humanitarian crisis and the killing of innocent children and sexual abuses of innocent women in Kashmir to remind the so-called big democracy of India in front of the embassy. Will make this huge protest to remind them that you can oppress us in the streets of Srinagar, but you cannot oppress in the streets of London, Belgium, America, Australia, Canada. Wherever a single Kashmiri lives, they will raise their voice. So from Radio Aapki Awaaz, I would urge the diaspora of Kashmiri community residing in United Kingdom, and I would request them to join us on Thursday, 5th of August, 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. in front of Indian High Commission, London. There's transport arrangements from north, south, and in central London. For example, from Birmingham, there is a transport arrangement from 488 Olamrock Road. We will depart at 10 o'clock in the morning, Thursday, for this huge protest. And from your Radio Aapki Awaaz, I would request every single person who believes on freedom, freedom of speech, expression, peace, love, and humanity, without any color, creed, or religion, you can join us on that day and to raise the voice and show your support and solidarity to the innocent children who are the victim of pellet guns, to the ladies who has been sexually abused, to the people who have been killed, and to show your love and support to the 20 million of Kashmiris residing in the Jammu Kashmir states. At the end, once again, thank you very much, Radio Aapki Awaaz, to raise the voice of voiceless Kashmiri nation. Thank you very much.
Liaqat Lone, thank you very much for giving up your time this evening to be part of this special program. Viewers and listeners, there you are. We're coming up to 4 minutes to 9, and I want to thank you for listening in this evening, and we would like to thank Dr. Shaheen who contacted us by phone, Claire Bidwell, the contact is again through phone, and Liaqat Lone here in the studio. And now you know the issue of the 5th of August. And the whole idea of this community program is to listen to the community and deal with the community request. If there's any particular issue, any particular concern you'd like us to talk about, please contact the studio on 07944 808 141, and we will try and bring these educational programs for you. So the whole idea of this is to enlighten you and empower you with the information, and then you shall be able to make your own decision. Once again, these programs are totally independent of any particular party, and we just want to make sure specifically that we give you the information for you to have informed opinion. Furthermore, to inspire you to go on, use the relevant sources and try to educate yourself and find out more information. Once again, thank you very much for listening to the program tonight, and stay safe and look after yourself, and Khuda Hafiz, and good evening.